The Romantic Age began in 1798, and I remember so many of my students asking me, "Ma'am, why not 1800? What's so special about 1798? Well, it's special because that was the year when Samuel Taylor Coleridge and William Wordsworth together published the lyrical ballads and the preface to the lyrical ballads. So what actually is the Romantic Age all about? To remember, my dear friends, we have done Shelley and we have done Byron and we have done Keats. Might be a good idea to go back and see some of those episodes. I'm not going to give you the numbers. You go and look for them. So, one of the most important poets, as we call the first generation poets, Wordsworth and Coleridge, and the second generation, you have Keats and Shelley and Byron and so on. So the Romantic Age was the age of back to nature. The Romantic Age was the age of imagination, the age of subjectivity, the age of simple language, the age where you don't need a dictionary to appreciate a poem. And they succeeded in making even the most familiar more familiar. So today, the poem that we are going to look at is called We Are Seven by William Wordsworth. Not a very well-known poem, but as enjoyable as anything else that Wordsworth ever wrote. William Wordsworth wrote ever so many poems. He lived ever so long as poet laureate too. Some of his greatest poems, which you would immediately remember, are poems like Daffodils, poems like The Cloud, poems like Intimations of Immortality, slightly long, a poem like Tintern Abbey. And it's very interesting that Wordsworth and Coleridge were great friends. And in fact, when they wrote the lyrical ballads together, I believe they decided Wordsworth would write about what we know and what we see. That would be nature. That would be flowers, mountains, rivers, lakes, and what have you. And even the rural people. Oh, he has a lovely little house called the Dove Cottage in Lake County. But Coleridge said he would write about what people are not very familiar with. And therefore Coleridge wrote about maybe ghosts, maybe goblins, maybe Merlins. You remember the Ancient Mariner or Kubla Khan in Xanadu, I saw. Anyway, so Wordsworth's poems are all about nature, about the simple folks of nature. So the poem today too is a poem like that. We Are Seven. A longish poem, but I'm sure you'll enjoy it. We Are Seven. Friends, it's a little longish poem, so maybe I'll not read all of it, but you can certainly see it on the screen. But let me begin. We are seven. A simple child that lightly draws its breath and feels its life in every limb. What should it know of death? So right in the first verse, you have the main topic. So what is the poem all about? So there is this person who's walking. The persona, probably a traveler, probably a friend, probably a friend's father. And he sees this little child and then he says, what should it know of depth? So we are introduced to the subject. I met a little cottage girl. She was 8 years old, she said. Her hair was thick with many a curl that clustered round her head. She had a rustic woodland air, and she was wildly clad. Her eyes were fair and very fair. Her beauty made me glad. Okay, so a description of that little child. But then the poet goes on, the persona goes on. Sisters and brothers, little maid, how many may you be? So he wants to know something more about this little child. So asking her about her family. How many? The girl answers. How many? 7 in all, she said, and wondering looked at me. The dialogue goes on. And where are they? I prayed, you tell. She answered, 7 are we, and 2 of us at Conway dwell, and 2 of us are gone to sea. Okay, out of 7, 2 are in Conway, one of the towns there. 2 of them are at sea, so maybe they are sailors. So we've already got 4 there. And then the girl herself, that is 5. But what about the other 2? Look at how the conversation goes on. 2 of us in the churchyard lie, my sister and my brother. And in the churchyard cottage, I dwell near them with my mother. I have to read that verse again for it to sink in, for you to understand. What does the girl say? 2 of us in the churchyard lie. You understand who lies in the churchyard, in the graveyard. My sister and my brother. And in the churchyard cottage, I dwell near them with my brother. So the poet, the persona goes on. You say that 2 at Conway dwell and 2 are gone to sea. Yet we are 7. I pray you tell, sweet maid, how this may be. If 2 are in the churchyard, lying in the ground? Then did the little maid reply, 7 boys and girls are we. 2 of us in the churchyard lie beneath the churchyard tree. She still insists we are 7, even though 2 are dying there. Maybe the poet is asking us to look at, can we count the dead as still being family members? Is it the childhood innocence of this little maid? Or is there a battle here between emotion and logic? The adult traveler, the persona, is probably logical, rational. But what about the child? She is emotional because she's still an innocent kid. So the poet goes on, the persona goes on. You run about, my little maid, your limbs, they are alive. If 2 are in the churchyard laid, then you are only 5. You can run, you can play, you can move, and therefore you are alive. But the other 2 in the churchyard, they are dead. He doesn't say they are dead, but he says they are lying, unmoving. And again he goes on, he doesn't stop. Their graves are green. Sorry, this is what the maid says. Their graves are green, they may be seen. The little maid replied, 12 steps or more from my mother's door, they are side by side. My stockings there I often knit, my kerchief there I hem, and there upon the ground I sit and sing a song to them. And often after sunset, sir, when it is light and fair, I take my little porridge and eat my supper there. I do all my activities there. So what if they are in the ground? The maid is arguing. She refuses to believe that there is any distance between the dead and those who are alive, between herself and the dead brother and sister. And then she goes on with the explanation. The first that died was Sister Jane. In mud she moaning lay, till God released her of her pain, and then she went away. Okay, so she was sick, she was in pain, and then she died. So in the churchyard she was laid, and when the grass was dry, together round her game we played, my brother John and I. So the brother was still alive. And when the ground was white with snow, and I could run and slide, my brother John was forced to go, and he lies by her side. It was a cold winter, so he probably died of that. She has explained how her sister and brother are no more. She doesn't say no more. She says they are lying there. How many are you then, said I, if they too are in heaven? Quick was the maid's reply. Oh, master, we are 7. But they are dead, those two are dead. Their spirits are in heaven. But the poet concludes by saying, "'Twas throwing words away, for still the little maid would have her will, and said, Nay, we are 7. I think that entire bond between these siblings is what the poet is talking about. Maybe the poet is also talking about the cycle of life, life and death. They are not really so far apart. I loved the poem. A long poem. How can you not have figures of speech? But by now, my dear friends, my dear listeners, my dear viewers, what would you be like to call? I think you know all these figures of speech like the back of your palm. What are they? Let me list them for you without giving examples. We have the rhyme, of course, which is a very simple rhyme. Girl said curl head, so A-B, A-B. But you have repetition, you have imagery, you have metaphors, and so many more. Just the anaphora, which is repeated phrases. That's figures of speech for you. Hope you love searching for them. It's a treasure hunt. A poem steeped in the beauty of nature, with a simple girl who really represents the innocence of childhood. And Wordsworth himself, who was one of the greatest nature poets in the English language. How could one not like this poem? After I finish reading a poem or explaining a poem, I sit back and think, what is so special about this poem? I think what is so special about this poem is, in such simple language, this great poet gives us a great philosophy of life, the cyclical nature of life and death, the bonding of a family, the innocence of a child, the constant dichotomy between emotions and thoughts. All this in such a simple poem makes it indeed a great poem.